Hey you, welcome back. Tonight, you're not chasing answers or collecting new worries like they're limited edition souvenirs. You're walking straight into warmth. The steppe rolls around you in quiet waves of grass, and the wind presses at your clothes with the rude confidence of something that never sleeps. This landscape doesn't care about your deadlines, which is both insulting and deeply comforting. One reality check before we begin. You probably won't survive this. By this, I mean letting yourself rest without earning it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and let me know how your day has really been, your worries, your exhaustion, or even a tiny joy that made you smile. I'm here to truly listen and offer the most sincere, heartfelt advice I can. Now, turn off the lights, take a deep, slow breath, let your tiredness melt away, and gently close your eyes. Let's drift together into tonight's dreamlike lands. And tomorrow morning, if you still remember, send me a message and tell me what you dreamed. The felt yurt waits ahead, round and steady against the wind. You walk toward it, and the steppe tries to bargain with you, pushing harder, daring you to turn back. Your cheeks sting. Your hands feel clumsy. The door flap, thick and weighted, stays calm anyway, as if it has seen far worse moods than yours. You slide your fingers under the edge of felt. It's dense, rough in a comforting way, warm even before you enter. You lift, and warmth pours out in a slow wave and hits you like permission. Not a dramatic blast, just a steady, lived-in heat that immediately starts untying the tension you forgot you were holding. You duck low to enter because the doorway asks you to bow whether you're proud or not, and then you're inside, and the wind becomes nothing but a muffled complaint outside the wool. The air tastes of smoke that has learned manners. Thin, sweet, controlled. It rises toward the round opening at the roof center and slips out into the night like a quiet exhale. A small fire sits near the middle, coals glowing with ember-red patience. The flame is modest, as if it knows it's important and doesn't need to show off. Your eyes adjust. The yurt reveals its simple genius. Wooden lattice curving around the walls, poles running upward like ribs, ropes cinching everything into one held breath. There are no corners for your mind to hide in, no sharp edges for your shoulders to brace against. The roundness changes you. Even your thoughts soften. Rugs cover the ground in overlapping layers, patterns worn smooth where countless feet have passed. Your boots thud less. Your body understands on a basic level that someone plans for comfort here. Someone expects cold. Someone prepares. People move in the lamplight at the edges of the space. Locals in layered clothing built for wind and work. They don't crowd you, don't demand you explain yourself. Their welcome is practical. A gentle gesture to shed your outer layer. An adjustment of the door flap to keep drafts from sneaking in. And a hand guiding you toward the warmest place that won't scorch you. Kindness here isn't loud. It's competent. You lower yourself on folded felt that compresses with a quiet sigh. Your knees complain for a heartbeat, then give up. The seat is low, close to the earth, grounding rather than cramped. Nearby, a brass oil lamp sits squat and steady, casting a butter gold glow that makes every shadow look softer than it has any right to. The flame inside it doesn't flicker wildly. It breathes, slowly, like it's teaching your nervous system a new tempo. A woven reed basket rests within reach, filled with ordinary treasures: cord, cloth, dried herbs, small tools, the quiet inventory of staying alive. You notice how everything has a place, not for aesthetics, for speed, for sanity, for the moments when the wind turns mean and hands must move without panic. Outside, the steppe keeps roaring. Inside, it can only be heard, not obeyed. The yurt has its own small sounds: the crackle of coals, the faint tick of settling wood, the hush of felt holding its shape. Each noise is small enough to be trusted. Even your breath sounds different, less like a hurried apology, more like a steady agreement to exist. And then, without ceremony, the biggest change happens. Your body begins to believe the shelter. Heat seeps into your fingers. Your cheeks stop burning. The tight place between your shoulder blades loosens one thread at a time. You don't have to win against the wind tonight. You only have to let the felt do its quiet work, while you sit in its round woolen mercy and remember what safety feels like. You stay seated long enough for the yurt to teach you its first lesson. Warmth isn't just temperature, it's order. Not strict, not fussy, more like a calm choreography where every object and movement has a reason. Your hosts shift around the space with an ease that makes you realize how loud you are when you don't know the rules. Even your blinking feels like it's taking up space. The first rule arrives without words, just a gentle redirection of attention toward your boots. They're still on, still holding the outside world on their soles. Dust, grass seeds, maybe a little stubborn pride. You start to lift one foot as if you'll just tuck it under you and pretend you belong here, but the small pause from someone nearby, soft, patient, tells you no. Not a scolding, more like, don't bring the wind inside if you can help it. You unlatch and pull your boots off. The air touches your socks and your feet register the rugs. Thick, layered, warm. It's not the plushness of a modern couch that swallows you. It's the grounded warmth of something made to be stepped on, shared, and repaired. You set your boots near the entrance, and the door flap seems to relax a little, as if it approves of you behaving like a sensible creature. Then you notice the center. Everything in the year either points toward it or respects its space. The hearth is not just a fire, it's a living boundary. You don't stride across it. You don't swing your legs toward it like you're stretching in a gym. You angle yourself around it, giving the flame the kind of courteous distance you'd give a small animal that might bite if startled. The air is warmer near the fire, but not suffocating. Heat rises and spreads, caught and softened by felt walls. Smoke threads upward toward the roof ring, an open circle framed by wooden supports, and slips out. The opening is like an eye to the sky, always watching the weather, always keeping the inside connected to the outside without surrendering to it. You look up and feel your mind do something rare. It stops sprinting. The round roof above you doesn't lead your gaze to a corner or a dead end. It leads you back to the center again and again, like a lullaby in architecture. There's another rule, quieter. Where you sit matters. It's not about status the way you're used to, no corporate seating chart energy. It's about balance. The yurt is a circle, and circles are fussy about weight. You're guided to a spot that makes sense, not blocking the door, not too close to the fire, not collapsing the flow of movement. You settled there, and the space feels right, like the yurt has nodded. Someone adjusts a rope line along the lattice wall, checking tension with a thumb and the kind of glance that has measured storms. You realize this home is not passive. It's maintained in tiny, constant ways. A loop is tightened, a fold of felt is smoothed, the door flap is weighted just so. These aren't chores. They're the everyday rituals that keep the wind from turning your night into a lesson you didn't ask for. Your attention drifts to the brass oil lamp again, its glow pooling over a low surface where small items rest, a cloth, a cup, a wooden bowl. The lamp's metal is warmed by its own flame, and it gives off that faint, comforting scent of oil, earthy, steady, not trying to smell like anything but what it is. It's the opposite of the artificial scents that chase you around modern life, screaming, "Relax," while your body refuses to believe them. Nearby, the woven reed basket sits like a quiet promise. You can almost feel what's inside without touching it. Cord for binding, scraps of felt for patching, dried plants for tea or medicine, maybe a small whetstone. The basket doesn't look decorative, it looks ready. That readiness does something to you. It's hard to panic in a space where everything has a purpose and nothing is pretending. You become aware of your hands, how they want to fidget, grab your phone, check something, do anything to prove you're still in control. But the yurt doesn't reward that kind of control. It rewards presence. You rest your palms on your knees and let them be heavy. Outside, the wind surges, testing the felt walls. The yurt answers with a low creak, a soft flex, like a living thing shifting its shoulders. The sound should be alarming, but it isn't. It's the sound of a structure designed to move with pressure instead of breaking under it. You take that in like advice meant for you. And slowly you start to copy the yurt. You stop fighting the wind in your head. You let the day's pressure pass over you instead of through you. You become quiet, not empty, not numb, just settled. Your breathing matches the lamp's steady glow, the hearth's patient crackle, the rope's firm hold. You're still you, with all your thoughts and worries and that one embarrassing memory that shows up uninvited at night. But here, in this round felt shelter, you're learning a softer way to exist. Boots off, edges rounded, heat shared, and everything, absolutely everything, kept in its rightful place. You keep your palms resting on your knees, and the yurt keeps working on you, softening your shoulders, slowing your breath, until your attention drips down to the floor and catches on a detail that feels almost rude in its quiet confidence. The beauty here isn't decoration, it's information. The rugs under you aren't only for warmth. They're layered like the land outside, each with its own history of being walked on, shaken out, patched, and put back in place. In the brass oil lamp's steady glow, the patterns sharpen into something readable. Borders march in repeating steps. Diamonds stack like little hills. Hooked lines curl like the path a river takes when it doesn't care about your straight-line plans. You lean forward, careful around the hearth's respectful space, and your tired eyes start to pick up the colors properly. Indigo, deep enough to feel like night held still. Russet, like sun-warmed leather. Turmeric yellow that brightens without shouting. Teal green that cools the mind the way shade cools skin. Small shell gold accents catch and release the light. Not flashy, just present, like a wink from whoever dyed the wool, reminding you that even survival is allowed to be beautiful. Someone smooths a rug edge with a quick, practiced hand, flattening a crease so no one stumbles in the dark. The gesture tells you everything. These designs are handled daily. They aren't sacred because they're untouched. They're sacred because they're used. The pattern isn't a poster of the past. It's the past doing the current shift, quietly keeping the present together. You notice how a central motif sits like a heart and how everything else frames it. Your modern brain tries to label the shapes immediately, horns, branches, waves, because it loves to win at understanding. But the symbols here don't behave like single definition words. A shape can be heard and protection and abundance at once. A zigzag can be lightning or mountain ridges, or the reminder that weather changes fast. The yurt doesn't ask you to be correct. It asks you to pay attention. Your gaze moves to the knots, tiny bumps you can see when the light hits at an angle. Thousands of them, each one tightened by a hand that didn't rush. A whole household held together by small, repeated care, which is both humbling and, annoyingly, very soothing. Near the wall, the woven reed basket sits within reach, its contents arranged for finding, not searching. Cord, cloth, a pouch of herbs, a small tool tucked where it belongs. It's the same logic as the rugs. Nothing wasted, nothing accidental. Even the basket is a map of priorities. Warmth first, repair always, panic never. You lift your eyes and the roof ring draws you in again, the circular crown that holds the sky opening. The wood is darkened with years of smoke and polished by touch. The poles radiate outward like spokes, and you see how the whole structure is a kind of compass. The ring marks the center. The poles point to the edges. The smoke threads up and out, always finding that opening, always reminding you where up is when your thoughts start sliding sideways. You let your gaze return to the rug borders, those repeating bands that frame the central designs. Borders are the yurt's favorite idea. A boundary isn't a prison, it's a promise. Inside this circle, you're safe enough to unclench. Outside can do what it does. Inside, you can breathe. Your breath comes out slower, and your body finally believes it. The lamp continues its steady, patient glow, and the patterns beneath you feel less like art and more like an atlas of how to live. Make things that last, make them beautiful anyway, and always know where your center is. As the wind presses and the felt holds, you feel your own inner map, frayed, overused, full of wrong turns, begin to redraw itself, not into perfection, but into something rounder, quieter, and easier to return to. Your mind is still tracing rug borders and roof rings when the yurt offers the next kind of map, the kind you can drink. A small pot settles near the coals. Water warms. The air shifts from simply warm to warm with purpose, and you realize, slightly offended on your own behalf, that you've been sitting here like a rescued stray, waiting for permission to relax. The yurt has already moved on to feeding you. The brass oil lamp keeps its butter gold glow while the hearth adds an ember red pulse. Steam lifts in thin threads and the lamp catches it, turning it silky for a second before it disappears through the roof opening. It's the gentlest lesson in the room. Even heat knows how to leave without making a scene. The tea isn't a dainty leaf and flower performance. This is the steppe. Comfort here looks practical, like a tool that happens to be beautiful. A dense tea brick is broken into dark pieces and dropped into the pot, and the scent comes up earthy and smoky, steady as damp wool. Milk follows, pale against the darkening liquid like dawn spreading across a night field. Then comes the part your modern brain wants to argue with: salt. A pinch, maybe more than a pinch, enough that your first instinct is to mentally request sugar, like you're filing a complaint with the universe. But the yurt is not a cafe, it's a shelter. It feeds you the way the land demands: warm, fatty, grounding, built to keep you going when the wind decides to get personal. A wooden bowl is offered into your hands with a calm, two-handed steadiness. You take it the same way, because something in you understands that this isn't just a drink. It's a small ritual of belonging, a quiet agreement that you're inside the circle now. The bowl warms your palms immediately, and you hold it close for a breath before sipping. The first taste is a soft shock. Salty, creamy, smoky, and strangely soothing. Not dessert, not spa day, more like being hugged by someone practical who doesn't ask how you're doing but still fixes the problem. The salt steadies your tongue. The milk coats your throat. Heat slides down into places that have been clenched all day. You didn't realize you were cold in your chest until you're not. You sip again, slower, and it stops being surprising and starts being right. Outside, the wind keeps throwing itself at felt. Inside, you can hold warmth in your hands. You notice tiny details you'd usually miss. The way the bowl's rim is wiped clean with cloth before it reaches you, the way your hands naturally hover over it first, stealing heat like a polite thief. The way you sip from the edge, careful not to slosh, because spilling warmth out here feels almost rude. A faint sheen of butter or cream rides the surface, catching shell gold highlights from the lamp. It tastes richer on the second and third sip, as if your body needed a moment to remember what care feels like. Food appears with the same unshowy grace, as if the yurt produces comfort from its seams. The woven reed basket shifts closer, the quiet hero of preparedness, and cloth-wrapped things emerge. Dry, pale curds that look like little stones, pieces of dense bread, and a few sturdy bites made to last through travel and weather. Nothing is plated, nothing is arranged for photos. Everything is arranged for survival with dignity. You take a small piece and chew. The texture forces patience. The flavor is simple and clean, tasting faintly of milk and sun and smoke, like the land's autobiography written in food. Your jaw slows, your shoulders follow. You realize the yurt is training you without lectures. Hurry wastes heat. Hurry wastes focus. Hurry wastes the small good things that keep a person whole. You start to copy what you see around you. You cradle the bowl. You let the warmth sit in your mouth before swallowing. You keep your movements small, careful, respectful of the hearth's space. In a round room, everything you do travels. Even your rest has a ripple. The oil lamp paints a trembling ring of light on the tea's surface. In that dark mirror, you catch a brief, honest glimpse of yourself. Tired eyes, soft face, someone who has been performing fine for too long. The reflection wobbles with your breath, then steadies again, and a quiet gratitude rises, not dramatic, just present. This salty milk tea isn't trying to heal you, it's simply doing what it's meant to do, warming you, grounding you, and making room for your mind to unclench. You take one more slow sip, and the warmth sinks deeper, like a promise being kept. The wind can keep shouting. The yurt answers in the same language every time. Heat, steadiness, and care that doesn't need to explain itself. The tea leaves a gentle weight in your belly, and with it comes the kind of courage that isn't loud, not the hero type. The practical kind that says, you can step outside again, and you'll still come back in. The door flap lifts, and the step immediately tries to remind you who runs this place. Cold air slaps your cheeks. Wind grabs at your sleeves like it's offended you found warmth. For a second, you hesitate on the threshold, body torn between the yurt's hush and the world's insistence. Then you duck out, keeping your steps steady, because if you move like you're fighting, the wind wins twice. Outside, the land is immense. The grass rolls in pale waves, bending in the same direction, like the whole steppe is quietly agreeing on a plan. The sky is low and wide, a dome of cold blue-gray with thin cloud streaks stretched like wool. There's no city glare, no humming traffic, just wind, open space, and the strange feeling that time has more room here. Your hosts move with the easy confidence of people who don't negotiate with weather. Layers of turmeric and teal fabric hold close to their bodies, tied and tucked so nothing flaps loose. Their boots plant firmly, not rigidly, balanced, like they've learned to be both grounded and flexible. You follow them a few paces from the yurt, keeping the round shelter in your peripheral vision like a lighthouse. The yurt itself looks even more miraculous from outside. Felt walls puff slightly with each gust, then settle. Ropes hum faintly under tension. Wooden parts give a soft creak. Not a complaint, more like a quiet stretch. It's a home designed to breathe with pressure. You think of how you've handled pressure lately, by stiffening, holding, snapping at small things, like a badly designed building in a storm. The yurt, rude as it is in its perfection, makes you want to do better. A few horses stand not far away, their bodies turned partly away from the wind, heads lowered, tails flicking. They look like living weather instruments, calm, listening, enduring. Their coats are thick, and when a gust hits, the hair ripples and settles again, as if the wind is just another thing that passes. One of them shifts and snorts, a warm puff that vanishes instantly. The steppe doesn't keep anything for long. You're guided toward the horses, but not rushed. There's a rhythm to how the locals move around animals. No sudden gestures, no grabbing hands, just a steady approach, a respect that says, this creature is your partner, not your accessory. You feel your own body soften as you mirror that pace. Your steps get quieter. Your hands hang relaxed at your sides. Your breath slows so it doesn't startle anyone, horse or human. A rope line is checked again, tied to a stake hammered deep into earth. Someone presses a boot near the peg, testing firmness. Another hand traces the rope's path to make sure it isn't rubbing sharp against anything that could fray it. These small checks aren't paranoia. They're routine, like brushing teeth, except the consequence of skipping it is waking up cold and wet and regretting every life choice you've ever made. You walk a little farther, just enough that the yurt becomes a round, solid shape behind you rather than the whole world. The wind sounds bigger out here. It whistles across grass. It hisses along rope. It pushes against your ribs. But the locals' bodies still look calm inside it, like they've learned that fear is wasted energy. They don't pretend the wind isn't strong. They simply behave as if they've survived it before, because they have. You notice other signs of life: tracks pressed into soil, a scatter of dung dried into hard pellets, tufts of wool caught on low shrubs like the land has been knitting. Even the smallest details look purposeful. Nothing out here is random. It's all part of an ongoing negotiation with scarcity and cold. And then, because the steppe is not interested in letting you romanticize it too much, you feel the wind change. It shifts direction, sharpening, slipping under your collar. It's subtle, but your hosts notice immediately. One of them tilts their head, eyes narrowing slightly at the sky. A quick look goes back to the yurt, back to the horses, back to the ropes. Not panic, assessment. You're guided back toward the shelter in a way that feels casual, but your body registers the message. Weather can turn fast. You don't wait until it's dramatic. You move with them, letting the yurt grow larger again, its felt walls a promise of heat. As you near the door flap, you catch the brass oil lamps glow through a small gap, a warm pulse in the gloom. You step inside, and the wind muffles instantly, like someone closed a door on your racing thoughts. Your cheeks sting less. Your hands loosen. You realize something quietly profound. Going out and coming back in doesn't just prove the shelter works. It teaches your body that safety can be returned to, that you can step into the hard world, and you can also step away from it, and both are allowed. The yurt receives you again, round and patient, as if saying, yes, the steppe is huge. Yes, the wind is loud. And still, here you are, warm, breathing, and learning how to be held. The outside air clings to you for a moment, and then the yurt takes it away, peeling cold from your sleeves the way warmth peels tension from your spine. You settle back near the hearth, and the routine around you shifts from feeding and welcoming to something even more intimate, maintaining. This is the part that never makes it into glossy travel fantasies. The steady, unromantic work that keeps a home from becoming a sad story. Your hosts move with a quiet urgency that isn't frantic. It has the energy of people who know exactly how long certain tasks take and how quickly the weather can decide to be difficult. The woven reed basket is opened, and what comes out feels like a magician's reveal if you've never had to live by preparation. Coils of cord, neatly wound, strips of felt, folded and stacked, a small awl-like tool, a knife with a clean edge, a wooden mallet worn smooth from use. Everything smells faintly of wool and smoke and hands. You're guided closer, Not too close to the fire, not in the way, just close enough that you can help. And because your body is warm and your mind is slower, you realize you actually want to. Not to be useful for validation, just because it feels good to take part in something real. A slab of felt is pulled out and unrolled. It's thick, dense, with that stubborn softness that only wool can have, soft against skin, tough against wind. You're shown how it's made, layers teased and pressed, then rolled and rolled again, like patience turned into shelter. The motion is steady, rhythmic. Roll forward, press down, roll back. The work has a sleepy cadence, almost like kneading dough, except the dough is your future comfort. Your arms join in and you feel the weight of it. Felt doesn't move because you ask politely. It moves because you commit your body to the task. Your shoulders protest at first, then settle into the rhythm. Heat rises from the hearth, and the lamp's glow rests on your hands, making them look calmer than you feel. You remind yourself you're not being graded. The step doesn't care if your technique is perfect. It cares if the felt becomes thick and even. A rope is measured against the yurt's lattice wall, then pulled taut with a practiced twist. The rope fibers bite into your palms when you touch it, rough, honest. You're guided to hold tension while someone else ties, and you discover a weird, satisfying truth. When you stop rushing, knots make sense. Loops sit where they should. Tension distributes. The rope hums quietly, like a stringed instrument tuned just right. There's an art to repair here that isn't flashy. A small worn spot on the felt wall is checked and patted, fingers pressing along the edge to find where it's thinning. A strip of fresh felt is aligned over it, then stitched with sturdy thread in a pattern that doesn't waste effort. Every stitch looks like a small decision to keep living comfortably. You watch, then try, and your own stitches come out slightly uneven, the way your life probably feels when you're trying your best. No one reacts. The patch doesn't demand beauty. It demands hold. The yurt seems to breathe with the work. Each rope tightened makes the walls feel firmer. Each fold smoothed makes the space feel calmer. Even the sound changes. Less creak, more quiet. Your nervous system notices. It starts to learn that safety isn't only found, it's built, maintained, repaired. At some point your hands drift toward the brass oil lamp without thinking, and you adjust it slightly so the light falls better on the work. The metal is warm, and the flame steadies as if it approves. You realize this lamp and this basket, these recurring little anchors, are not just objects. They're the yurt's way of saying, be ready and be gentle. Keep light. Keep supplies. Keep calm. The task continues in small shifts. Cord is cut. Ends are sealed by careful heat. Loose fibers are tucked. A wooden pole is checked where it meets the roof ring. The connection pressed and tested. No one waits for failure to prove a point. They prevent it quietly. Your modern brain, trained to react to crises and then post about resilience, is slightly embarrassed. Out here, resilience is boring on purpose. Your breath syncs with the work. Pull, tie, press. The rhythm is steady enough that your mind starts drifting in that pleasant half-awake way. You notice the way the rugs cushion your knees. You notice how smoke threads upward, never pooling, always leaving. You notice the faint sweetness of the tea lingering in your mouth, salt and milk grounding you. And then as you help roll one last strip of felt, you feel something shift inside you, something simple and relieving. You don't have to perform your way into belonging. You can earn it the quiet way, by holding a rope when asked, by keeping tension steady, by placing a patch where it matters, by being part of the maintenance of warmth. When the last knot is tightened, there's no celebration, just a soft settling in the yurt, as if the structure itself relaxes. You sit back again, hands pleasantly tired, palms smelling faintly of wool and rope. Outside, the wind keeps roaming. Inside, the yurt holds, and your body understands the best comfort is the kind you helped make. The work leaves a clean tiredness in your arms, the kind that feels earned without being punished. You sit back on the layered rugs and let your hands rest, palms still remembering rope texture and felt weight. The yurt settles around you with that patient, round steadiness, as if the repairs and tightening weren't just practical. They were a quiet conversation with the wind, and the yurt has answered well. As evening deepens, the light inside shifts. The brass oil lamp becomes less of an accent and more of a little sun. It pools gold across the rugs and the lower lattice walls, turning every fiber warmer than it has any right to be. The hearth keeps its ember-red pulse, a steady heartbeat near the center. Between lamp and fire, the yurt becomes a small universe where shadows behave themselves. Your hosts move in softer patterns now, less about checking ropes and more about shaping the night. They fold cloth, set bowls aside, shake out a rug edge, then smooth it again. Everything is small and deliberate. You realize that evening customs here don't look like a schedule. They look like respect for the coming hours, setting the space so sleep can arrive without tripping over chaos. You notice how sitting positions subtly change as time passes. People shift closer to the warmth, but not into the fire's space. They angle their bodies so everyone shares heat and light without crowding. The yurt doesn't allow selfish sprawl. The circle teaches you to take only what you need. A quiet ritual of washing begins. Hands cleaned with a small bowl of water, wiped with cloth. The movements are unhurried, almost meditative. You follow, because it feels less like copying and more like joining a tempo. The water is cool against your skin, a gentle shock that wakes you just enough to appreciate the warmth that returns afterward. Somewhere near the woven reed basket, dried herbs are moved, a pinch measured, and the air changes again. A faint, calming scent, something grassy, something clean, rises and mingles with smoke. Not perfume, not a performance, just a practical comfort layered onto the evening, like adding another blanket. You become aware of something you haven't thought about in a while. Manners that aren't about impressing people. Here, manners are about keeping the shared world smooth. You see it in how items are passed, steady with two hands when something is warm or important. You see it in how people step around the hearth's invisible boundary. You see it in how the door flap is checked each time someone moves near it, weighted so drafts don't sneak in like thieves. The yurt's roundness changes your own movements. You stop reaching suddenly. You stop shifting loudly. You feel the subtle pressure of the circle, gentle but firm, asking you to become quieter, softer, less jagged. Your thoughts begin to follow. They slow down, smooth out, stop biting at their own tails. Outside, the sky sinks deeper into night. You can tell without seeing because the wind's tone changes, lower and more insistent, like it's decided to work overtime. The felt walls answer with a muted flex, the ropes humming faintly under tension. You remember the earlier work, rolling, tightening, patching, and you feel grateful in a way that isn't sentimental. You're grateful like someone who knows what it means to keep a roof over your head. The oil lamp's flame trembles once, then steadies again. The shell gold accents on rug patterns wink softly. Indigo shadows gather along the edges of the space, not threatening, just deepening. Russet tones in cloth and leather seem to glow as the light narrows. Turmeric and teal fabrics move quietly as people adjust layers, settle, prepare. There's no loud entertainment, no screens, no background noise engineered to fill silence. The yurt allows silence to exist without making it awkward. That alone feels like a miracle. You feel your mind search for something to do, some problem to chew on, some anxiety to rehearse. It finds nothing urgent. The warmth has taken the edge off your panic, and the steady rhythms of the evening have given your brain permission to be bored, a rare, luxurious boredom that feels like peace. A place is prepared for you, simple bedding arranged on rugs, layers aligned to trap warmth. The fabric smells faintly of smoke and sun and wool. You lie down carefully, aware that your body is heavy, but not in the miserable way. Heavy like a stone warmed by sunlight. The yurt sounds become your lullaby. Coals settling with tiny cracks, felt whispering as wind presses, ropes singing faintly under tension. The oil lamp's quiet hiss. Your host's movements grow fewer, then still. The circle becomes a cradle. You stare up at the roof ring, the open eye to the night sky. You can't see much from this angle, just a slice of darkness, maybe a suggestion of cloud moving. But you can feel the world out there, vast and cold, and you can feel this small, round shelter holding its ground. Your eyelids grow heavier. Your thoughts come slower, like they're walking through deep grass. You remember the salty milk tea, the steady knots, the patched felt. You remember, with a faint private smile, how the wind tried to bully you and failed. And as the yurt's warmth settles deeper into your bones, you realize the evening custom you're learning isn't a rule. It's an attitude. Make the night gentle on purpose. Keep the circle calm. Let silence be kind. Let the wind be loud outside, so you don't have to be loud inside. You lie there with your eyes half-lidded, thinking you might actually slip into sleep like a normal person, when the yurt gives you a small warning, a deeper groan in the lattice, a long exhale of felt under pressure. The sound isn't loud, but it's new, and your body, ever loyal to anxiety, tries to sit up and audition for panic. The warmth still holds. The brass oil lamp still glows with its steady butter gold patience. The hearth still pulses ember red, calm as a slow heartbeat. Nothing is wrong, in the dramatic way your brain prefers, because drama is easier than uncertainty. Instead, the night simply changes. Outside, the wind shifts again, and this time, it doesn't just push, it prowls. It finds different angles, slides along the felt walls like fingers searching for a loose thread. The yurt answers by flexing, subtle movement you can feel more than see, a gentle sway in the poles, a quiet hum in the ropes. The shelter isn't failing, it's doing what it was built to do, move with the force instead of fighting it. And still, your senses sharpen. You listen to the way gusts arrive in waves, quiet, then rising, then a sudden shove that makes the felt thump softly. The door flap shifts, weighted but alive, and for a second you imagine cold air sneaking under it like a small animal. Your shoulders tense, then you force them down again, reminding yourself you're not out there, you're in here, you're warm, you're safe. Your hosts stir, not abruptly, but with the same smooth efficiency you've watched all evening. No frantic scrambling, no dramatic gestures, just bodies moving because they recognize the wind's tone the way you recognize the tone of a friend who's about to say, "We need to talk." The yurt is being tested, and the response is practiced. The woven reed basket appears again as if it's been waiting for this moment all along. A hand reaches in and pulls out cord with the same calm certainty as earlier, and you're struck with a sleepy, grateful thought. Preparedness is basically the step's love language. You sit up slowly, careful not to sprawl across the circle's invisible boundaries. Your bedding is warm, your joints are reluctant. But you follow the movement in the room because your body understands something important now. You're not a guest who floats above the work. You're part of the warmth being kept. The wind hits hard enough to make the yurt's roof sing, a thin, taut note. The lamp's flame trembles, then steadies, as if offended by the interruption. Shadows ripple across the rug patterns, indigo deepening, russet warming, turmeric and teal shifting as the light wavers. For a moment, the yurt feels like a living creature bracing its muscles. Someone checks the door flap, pressing the felt edge down, making sure the weight sits right. Another person moves along the lattice wall, palm sliding over rope lines, feeling for slack. It's all touch and listening, no words, no show. The kind of quiet competence that makes you feel both safe and mildly ashamed of how you treat your own life, waiting until something breaks before you pay attention. You add yourself to the rhythm without needing instruction. You reach for the basket and find a coil of cord. Your fingers remember the rope texture from earlier, the honest bite of fiber. You hold the coil ready, then shift closer to where a line needs tightening. The yurt creaks again, longer this time, the sound traveling through wood and felt and into your ribs. Your heart answers with a quick thump, then you breathe out slowly, letting the exhale be heavier than the fear. Another gust slams into the outer wall, and you feel a thin thread of cold brush your cheek, so slight you could pretend it didn't happen. But you don't pretend. You notice. You glance toward the source, not a gaping hole, not disaster, just a tiny imperfect seal where felt overlaps felt, where the wind, relentless and clever, has found a whisper-sized path. This is the problem forming, not catastrophe, but intrusion. The step doesn't kick down doors, it slips in through patience. A strip of felt comes out, folded and ready, like an answer kept in reserve. The patch is placed over the overlap, aligned carefully so it sits flat and catches the draft at its source. You hold one edge while someone else anchors it, and the felt's weight feels strangely reassuring in your hands. Dense, warm, stubborn. The moment it settles, the cold whisper stops. The yurt seems to sigh. But the wind isn't done. It shifts again, and another rope line gives a slightly different note, a lower hum, as if tension has redistributed. The roof ring creaks, and you look up automatically, watching the spokes of poles. They hold, they flex. Smoke still rises cleanly through the opening, proving the yurt is breathing properly. The hearth's glow remains steady, not flaring, not dying. The system is intact. It's just being asked to work harder. Your hosts move around the circle in a pattern that keeps everything balanced. One checks a steak's firmness by pressing near it. Another tightens a line with a firm twist. Another smooths felt. Another adjusts the lamp's position so light falls where hands need it. The lamp becomes an anchor point, steady gold against moving shadows. The woven basket stays open, its contents a quiet assurance. More cord, more patches, more readiness. You realize your body has stopped trying to panic. It's too busy being part of the response. There's something deeply soothing about that, about having a clear, simple task when the world presses in. Hold this, pull that, keep tension steady, breathe. Outside, the wind roars like it's doing you a favor by proving how powerful it is. Inside, the yurt answers with structure, flex, and warmth. You feel the round shelter tighten itself into a calmer shape, and your own mind follows, tightening into focus instead of fear. The night grows louder, but the inside grows steadier. And as you settle back for a moment, hands warm, heart slower, you understand what this test is teaching you. Safety isn't silence. Sometimes safety is a shelter that creaks and hums and moves and still holds. The wind keeps prowling along the yurt's skin, testing overlaps the way a clever animal tests a fence. You feel the pressure in the structure now, subtle but constant, ropes humming, felt breathing in and out with each gust. The brass oil lamp stays steady, butter gold light pooling over indigo shadow and russet warmth, as if it refuses to take weather personally. Then the sound changes, not the familiar creak of wood or the soft thump of felt flexing, a short, dry snap, quick enough that your tired brain tries to deny it for half a heartbeat. The yurt answers with a faint flutter along one side wall, and a thin ribbon of cold slips in, sharp against your neck. So yes, the step has found a way to complain directly into your personal space. You sit up fully. Your bedding, warm and heavy, tries to persuade you to stay put, but the place has already taught you the rule. Respond early while problems are still small enough to be polite. Your hosts are already moving, quietly, efficiently, like they've seen this exact kind of night and don't plan to make it dramatic. The woven reed basket opens again, calm as a promise. Cord appears. A small tool catches the lamplight. You shift closer, keeping clear of the hearth's boundary, and another gust makes the roof poles answer with a low, collective groan. The flutter comes again. You follow it until you find the culprit. An exterior line has slipped at a knot point along the lattice. Not fully free, but loose enough that the felt wall lifts and breathes wrong. The gap is narrow, yet the cold that sneaks through it is ambitious, instantly trying to steal the warmth you only just convinced yourself you're allowed to have. Your hands take the cord without thinking. You feed it out, keep it from tangling, keep your mind from sprinting. The wind can be loud, but your job is simple. Hold, pull, steady. You brace the lattice with your palm while the loose line is pulled back into place. Rope bites into skin. The structure gives a little, like a rib cage expanding against pressure. You pull in rhythm with the gusts. When it hits, you hold. When it eases, you tighten. It's strangely satisfying, like learning you can cooperate with force instead of fighting it. For a moment, it feels like you've won. The flutter quiets. The cold ribbon thins. The oil lamp's glow steadies again. And then the steppe, offended by your confidence, pushes harder. A gust slams into the same wall. The knot point holds, but a seam nearby, where felt overlaps and old stitching has been patched before, gives a tiny exhausted sigh and opens. Not a cinematic rip, just a slow parting, like cloth deciding it has done enough for one lifetime. The gap widens to the width of 2 fingers, and cold air pours in with sudden clarity. Your breath catches. Your brain offers its usual useless ideas. Panic, blame, rehearsed disaster, become a different person with better luck. You let those thoughts float past. The yurt doesn't need your feelings. It needs your hands. You move toward the gap, careful around the hearth. The felt wall lifts and settles with each shove, and the wind tries to wedge itself farther inside. The lamp is shifted slightly, so its butter gold light lands on the seam. The brass warms under your fingertips, the flame trembles, then steadies, stubborn. From the basket comes a thicker strip of felt, folded into a dense pad. You press it to the opening with both hands. Wool is warm on the inside surface, cold along the outside edge, a clean border between comfort and weather. Someone anchors the strip while you feed cord through, using the small tool to guide it through layers that resist. Your fingers fumble once. The wind chooses that moment to shove again, making the gap try to yawn wider. You press harder. You breathe out slowly. You keep your movements small. The patch begins to sit flat. The cord tightens. Stitch by stitch, the seam closes down like a mouth learning to stay quiet. Cold stops arriving in a stream and becomes only a faint suggestion. Then nothing at all. The yurt's inner air warms back up, reclaiming itself. The rope's hum returns to a steadier note. The felt wall settles, and you feel immediately the difference between barely holding and secure again. When you sit back, your palms are warm from work, your heart slower than it has any right to be. You look at the rugs, the lamp, the hearth, the curved lattice, and you understand the quiet alarm wasn't fear. It was attention. This home doesn't panic. It listens. Outside, the wind continues its loud opinion about everything. Inside, the yurt returns to its patient breathing, and so do you, calm, steady, patched back together a little more than you were before. The seam holds, And for a few sweet minutes, the wind's voice becomes only a muffled grumble again, like someone complaining politely from outside a closed door. Your body starts to sink back into the rugs and bedding, convinced the crisis has been handled. Then the yurt gives you another kind of discomfort. Not cold this time, but absence. You reach toward the woven reed basket out of habit, wanting to tuck the remaining cord back in, restore that reassuring sense of order. Your fingers find the rim, then empty space where a particular coil should be. The basket is still full, tools, scraps, herbs, but the cord you've been using isn't there anymore. It's not where you placed it. It's not where your hand expects it to be. And in a stormy night, that tiny mismatch feels like a loose tooth you can't stop touching. The wind presses again, not hard enough to break anything, but enough to remind you that the night is not finished negotiating. You glance toward the repaired seam. It's stable, but stable things can become unstable fast when you run out of what stabilizes them. Your hosts notice your searching hands. Their movements stay calm, but the shift in their focus is immediate. Eyes flicking to the basket, then to the rope lines, then to the floor. This is the step version of an alarm. Not a shout, just a quick, purposeful reorientation. You scan the rugs first. Patterns blur in lamplight. Indigo and russet borders, turmeric yellow accents, teal-green shadows. The cord could be anywhere, blending into the warm tones of wool. You lean closer, fingertips skimming along the rug pile, feeling for the familiar roughness of fiber. Nothing. You check near the hearth, careful not to cross too close. Heat makes objects disappear into shadow. A small tool glints, but it isn't what you need. The cord is missing, and your mind, ever dramatic, tries to tell you that it has vanished into a different dimension where only lost socks live. You breathe out slowly. The yurt has taught you better than that. Things don't vanish, they move. You replay the moment in your body. You remember holding the cord coil. You remember shifting closer to the seam. You remember the gust that hit while your fingers fumbled. In that gust, something could have slipped. A coil could have rolled. A strand could have snagged. You turn toward the door flap. The threshold is where inside meets outside, where order meets wind's chaos. If the cord got pulled, even slightly, it might have drifted toward the draft and been nudged nearer the entrance. The idea makes your stomach tighten. Not fear, exactly, but urgency. Cord is more than string tonight. It's the difference between a sealed wall and cold arriving like a rude guest. You move to the edge of the yurt, staying low. The lamp's glow thins near the door, shadows deepening. The felt door flap shifts with each gust, and the sound of wind becomes louder here, more present. You glance down and see boot prints near the entrance, your own, earlier, pressed into the rug's worn surface. You see a small scatter of dust and grass seeds that didn't fully leave your soles. The yurt forgives you, but it remembers. And then you see it, a length of cord half hidden under a folded edge of rug, trailing like a little brown river toward the door. The sight hits you with disproportionate relief. Your shoulders drop. Your breath comes easier. You pinch the cord gently and draw it back, careful not to jerk it and make it tangle or snag. Fiber scrapes lightly across your fingers. You follow the cord's path with your hand, tracing it back to where a coil has rolled and wedged itself beneath a bundle of cloth near the entrance. It's close, too close, to the door flap's shifting edge. Another gust arrives, and the flap lifts slightly. Cold air brushes your cheek again, and you realize how easily the cord could have been tugged outward, disappearing into the night like a fish pulled downstream. The steppe would have taken it with no apology. You act without drama. You pull the coil fully free, bring it back toward the basket, and set it inside with a steady motion. The basket accepts it, open-mouthed and ready, like it's been waiting for you to remember how order works. But you don't stop there, because the yurt has trained you into a new kind of thinking. Fix the cause, not just the symptom. You check the rug edge that hid the cord, smoothing it flat so it won't curl again. You glance at the door flap's weights and adjust them slightly, ensuring the flap sits snug, less likely to lift and gulp air. You tuck loose cloth so it won't snag another coil. Small changes, big consequences. Your hosts return to their own positions, attention easing back to the rope lines and seam checks. The night's tension loosens slightly in the room, like a knot slipping into a comfortable hold. You sit down again, hands warm from movement. The oil lamp's glow feels steadier now, as if it approves of your small competence. The hearth crackles softly. The repaired seam holds. The missing cord is found and contained. Order has been restored, and your body finally, gratefully, believes that the inside can remain inside. Outside, the wind keeps performing its long solo. Inside, you learn the steppe's quiet truth. Survival is often a series of tiny recoveries, finding what slipped away, bringing it back, and placing it where it belongs. With the cord safely back in the woven reed basket, the yurt feels orderly again, like a mind that finally put its thoughts back in the right drawers. The relief is real, but it's also temporary, because the wind outside is still out there doing its long, dramatic monologue to an audience that did not buy tickets. A gust arrives, and the felt wall answers with a soft thump. Another follows, sharper, and you hear the ropes sing a slightly higher note, tension shifting along the lattice, like a message passed hand to hand. The brass oil lamp doesn't panic, it just keeps glowing, butter gold and stubborn, painting warm circles on rugs that have already outlived 1,000 bad nights. Your hosts move again, not rushed, not theatrical. Their bodies carry the calm of repetition. This is not the first time winter has tried to sneak into a seam and make itself comfortable. The basket stays open, a quiet mouth of preparedness, and more felt emerges, thicker pieces, layered, folded, ready like extra armor. You slide closer, careful around the hearth's invisible boundary. The ember-red coals pulse steadily, offering heat with patient generosity. Smoke still threads cleanly up through the roof ring, which tells you the yurt is breathing properly. That detail matters more than your imagination wants to admit. A home that can breathe can survive a lot. A long strip of felt is unrolled along the wall that's taking the worst of the wind. You feel the difference immediately in your hands. This isn't the softer inner layer, it's denser, heavier, meant to face the weather's teeth. You help lift and align it, pressing it flat so no pocket of air can inflate and flap. Wind loves flapping. Wind hears flapping as an invitation. The lamp is nudged again, just a little, so its gold pool lands on the working hands. The brass is warm when you touch it, almost friendly, and the flame steadies as if it's been waiting for you to stop being a startled tourist inside your own body. The basket offers cord, and you feed it out slowly, keeping it from tangling, because nothing ruins a calm night like fighting a knot that's formed out of pure spite. You start lashing the new felt layer down, following the rhythm you learned earlier. When the gust hits, you hold. When it eases, you tighten. Pull. Pause. Tighten. The rope bites your palms, rough and honest, and the work becomes strangely soothing. Each tug is a small refusal to let cold take what warmth built. Another line needs attention. The yurt's ropes don't fail all at once. They complain in small notes. A faint slackness here, a creak there. Your hosts find it by touch the way you find a pulse. You follow their hands along the lattice, feeling tension change from tight to slightly too giving. You re-anchor the line with a firm twist, and the rope's hum returns to a steadier pitch, like a guitar string finally tuned. The wind escalates outside, and for a moment the yurt's round body feels like it's leaning into the pressure. You feel it in the poles, in the way the felt flexes, in the subtle shift of shadows across indigo rugs and russet cloth. Your stomach tightens on instinct. Then you remember the earlier seam, how it closed down under wool and cord, and your hands keep working anyway. Fear doesn't help the rope. Your grip does. A quick check at the door flap becomes necessary. You move low, staying out of the hearth space, and press the felt edge down where drafts like to sneak in. Another weight is adjusted. The flap settles more snugly, and the wind's voice dulls again, muffled into a distant complaint. You can almost hear your own nervous system copying it, still loud but farther away. There's a moment, brief, sharp, when the work carries you right to the threshold, and the night outside pulls at you like a dare. Cold air slips in and you taste it, metallic and clean. One of the outer lines clearly needs reseating. The rope's angle is wrong, the pull uneven. You know it without thinking, because the yurt has already turned you into someone who notices. You slip out just enough to help, the door flap lifting and closing like an eyelid. The steppe wind hits you immediately, brutal and unfiltered. Your breath turns into a pale puff that's stolen the instant it leaves you. The rope outside is stiff with cold, and your hands feel clumsy for a second. You steady them. You find the stake. The ground is hard, but not impossible. A wooden mallet appears from the basket's logic. Of course it does. And you drive the peg deeper with controlled, heavy taps. Each strike is small and decisive. The rope tightens. The yurt's skin stops fluttering. The wind, annoyed, has to look for another weakness. You slip back inside and the warmth returns like someone placing a blanket over your shoulders. No questions asked. The oil lamp's gold looks even softer now against the deepening indigo shadows. The hearth's ember, red pulse feels like a private kindness. Your hands warm up quickly, and you go right back to lashing the felt layer, reinforcing overlaps, smoothing edges, tucking any loose fiber that might invite the wind to start its nonsense again. Hours pass in a way that doesn't feel like time. It feels like rhythm. Pull, press, tie, breathe. You notice how your mind stops spinning stories about worst cases and starts paying attention to simple truths. The felt is thick. The rope is strong. The circle holds. You remember the salty milk tea sitting warm in your belly. And you realize it wasn't just comfort, it was fuel for this, for the quiet work of keeping the night gentle. When the wind finally eases into something less aggressive, still present, still moody, but no longer trying to audition for a legend, the yurt sounds different, less groan, more quiet. The ropes hum a calmer note. The felt wall rests. The lamp glow steadies into a peaceful pool, and the basket sits closed again, full of the things you didn't waste. You sit back, palms sore in the nicest way, and feel a deep comfort settle in, something sturdier than warmth, purpose, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't post about itself, doesn't demand applause, just a simple certainty. You helped the shelter hold, and in doing that, you helped yourself hold, too. The repairs are done, not in the sense of perfect forever, but in the only sense that matters on a night like this. The yurt is holding right now. The wind has been reminded, politely, firmly, that it can roar all it wants outside, but it doesn't get to rearrange the inside. You ease back onto the rugs and let your hands rest. They throb in small, honest pulses, warmed by the hearth and still carrying the memory of rope bite and felt weight. The brass oil lamp glows steadily again, butter gold light lying over the indigo depths of shadow, over russet cloth, over turmeric and teal layers. The light makes the yurt feel smaller in the best way, like a pocket of calm cut out of the night. This is the longest quiet, the kind that arrives after effort, not silence, because the steppe never truly shuts up, but a quieter tone, less prowling, more passing. The wind has moved from "I will break you" to "I will continue to exist," which is honestly a huge improvement. You lie down again. Bedding folds around your body, warm and weighted. The rugs beneath you are steady, slightly springy, making your muscles feel supported instead of braced. You stare up at the roof ring's dark circle, the open eye to the sky. Smoke threads upward, thin and obedient, proving the hearth still breathes cleanly. Every time you see that smoke rise and leave, you feel your mind follow it up, lifting, loosening, letting go. Your body is tired now in a way that feels safe. Not the exhausted crash of overwork, where your brain stays on alert even while your muscles give up. This tiredness is the result of doing what needed doing. It carries a quiet pride you don't have to announce. The yurt sounds become softer. The lattice settles with occasional gentle ticks. Rope hum fades into a low, steady presence. Felt whispers when the wind brushes it, then returns to stillness. The lamp's flame makes a tiny, consistent hiss, like a whisper you can't quite catch. You realize how comforting it is to have small, predictable sounds. They're like proof that everything is functioning. Your mind tries once, just once, to pick up a worry and run with it. A quick flash of tomorrow, of messages waiting, of problems that don't solve themselves. The thought arrives like a gust, and then it passes. You watch it go the way you watch smoke go, up, out, gone. The yurt's lesson repeats. Pressure can move through you without living in you. You feel the warmth in your belly from earlier tea still there, like a steady ember. Salt and milk, simple fuel. You think of how that drink felt at first, surprising, almost wrong, and how quickly it became comforting. It's like rest itself, strange when you're not used to it, then suddenly essential. Someone nearby shifts, quiet and slow, settling into their own bedding. No dialogue, no fuss, just the sound of fabric against rug, a soft exhale. The yurt holds everyone in the same circle, the same warmth, the same shared night. You feel oddly less alone, even without words. Sometimes companionship isn't conversation. Sometimes it's simply being sheltered together. The wind outside continues, but it's no longer a threat in your imagination. It's weather. It's movement. It's the steppe doing what it does. You stop taking it personally. That's a big moment, even if it comes disguised as drowsiness. Your eyelids grow heavy again. The lamp's pool of gold narrows as your focus softens. Rug patterns blur into gentle shapes. Indigo becomes a deep, safe night color rather than something ominous. Russet becomes warmth. Turmeric becomes a small brightness. Teal becomes cool calm. The palette of the yurt feels like a lullaby written in wool. You let your breath deepen. Inhale, slow, full. Exhale, longer, heavier. You feel your ribs expand and settle. You feel your shoulders sink into the bedding. You feel your jaw unclench. You feel your hands uncurl. Outside, a gust hits, and the yurt answers with a soft flex. The gentle movement, almost like a cradle rocking. Instead of startling you, it soothes you. The shelter is doing what it was made to do, and your body, finally, trusts it enough to stop listening for disaster. You hover on that edge between waking and sleep where thoughts become softer and less logical. Images drift through, rope lines humming, felt pressed flat, the basket open like readiness, the lamp's glow steady as a promise. You feel a faint, sleepy amusement at yourself, how you needed a windstorm and a yurt lesson to remember that calm is something you can build. The night stretches, the yurt holds, and as your mind slips further into quiet, you realize the longest quiet isn't the absence of noise. It's the absence of struggle against noise. The wind can keep talking. You don't have to answer. Morning doesn't arrive like a trumpet blast out here. It arrives the way warmth arrived when you first lifted the door flap, gradually, steadily, as if the world is trying not to startle you on purpose. You wake to a different kind of sound. The wind is still present, because the steppe loves consistency, but it has softened into a lower, tired murmur. The yurt feels calmer in its bones. No sharp creaks, no rope notes singing warnings, just the faint settling of wood and felt in a more forgiving air. The brass oil lamp's flame is smaller now, its gold light dimmer against the growing pale glow filtering down from the roof ring. The hearth has sunk into coals, ember red and steady, still warm enough to comfort, but no longer demanding attention. Your body, wrapped in layered bedding, feels heavy and safe. Your hands ache pleasantly, like proof you were part of something real. You sit up slowly and glance around, taking inventory the way the locals do, quietly, without drama. The woven reed basket is closed again, orderly, cord coils tucked inside like obedient snakes. The rugs are mostly flat, borders aligned, no edges curled into tripping hazards. The patched seam you worked on is still sealed, felt sitting snug against felt, as if the night never tried to wedge itself into your warmth. You feel a small private satisfaction, not pride that needs to be shared, just the calm knowledge that the yurt held because people cared for it and you were part of that care. A shift in the light from above draws your eyes to the roof ring. The sky beyond is paler now, a soft gray blue that looks almost gentle compared to last night's mood. Thin clouds slide past like brushed wool. Smoke rises again in a clean line when someone stirs the coals, proving the yurt's breathing remains steady. That little detail keeps reassuring you, over and over, the system works. You move carefully toward the door flap, boots still waiting near the entrance like patient, slightly judgmental companions. The threshold feels different now, less like a barricade and more like a gateway. You lift the felt edge and step out. Cold air meets you, but it's cleaner than last night, less sharp. The wind still moves, but it isn't trying to prove anything. The steppe stretches wide and bright, grass flattened in rippling patterns where the gusts pressed it down. The sky is open, and light makes the land feel less severe. You can see the yurt's round shape clearly now, its felt walls slightly dusted, its ropes taut, stakes firm. It looks humble and heroic at the same time, like something built to last without needing applause. Your hosts walk around the yurt's perimeter, checking lines the way someone checks their own pulse. Routine, calm, necessary. A hand presses near a stake, testing firmness. Fingers trace a rope for fray. Someone pats the felt where it overlapped, confirming the patch stayed flat through the night. The repair you helped with is inspected, and the fact that it holds is treated as normal. That's another lesson. Success isn't a celebration here, it's the expected result of steady attention. You follow their path around the yurt, and you see little marks of the night's battle. A faint scuff where a rope dragged, a small indentation where the mallet struck the peg deeper, a subtle shift in the grass where the wind changed direction. These are not scars, they're evidence of adaptation. Nearby, horses stand with their backs to the breeze, heads lowered as if listening to the earth. Their coats gleam faintly in the new light. One lifts its head and blinks slowly, exhaling a warm puff that dissolves in the air. The animal looks calm in a way that feels like advice. The world can be big and cold. You can still be steady. Back inside, the yurt warms again as the hearth is coaxed into a slightly brighter life. The air smells of smoke and wool, cleaner than you'd expect after a long night. A simple morning rhythm begins, bedding folded, rugs shaken lightly and resettled, the lamp checked, the basket opened for small tasks, then closed again. Everything returns to place. This home doesn't just survive storms, it resets after them. You wash your hands again, the water cool, the cloth rough and honest. The sensation wakes you fully, but not harshly. You feel refreshed in that rare way that doesn't involve screens or caffeine or rushing. Refreshed because your body slept and your mind stopped defending itself for a few hours. You take another warm bowl of tea, still salty, still creamy, still slightly cheeky in its refusal to be sweet, and this time it tastes like morning itself, grounding, simple, real. You sip slowly, letting warmth settle into your belly, feeling the day start without grabbing you by the collar. You glance once more at the patched seam, and you remember the night, the snap, the cold ribbon, the steady hands, the rope hum returning to calm. You realize how easily you could have spent the night wrestling your thoughts instead of rope lines. Instead, you worked, you breathed, you let the yurt teach you its calm structural wisdom. And as the pale light strengthens through the roof ring, you feel something in you brighten too. Not loud happiness, not a dramatic transformation, just a steady, quiet readiness. The kind that says, you can face wide skies. You can handle sharp winds. You can even fix small tears before they become big ones. Morning has arrived, and you're still warm, still held, still breathing cleanly. The day continues in small, steady motions, and you begin to understand that life here isn't built on big speeches about strength. It's built on habits that keep warmth from leaking out, habits of hands, habits of eyes, habits of attention. You remain inside the yurt a little longer than you expected, not because you're hiding, but because the circle has become a teacher. The brass oil lamp sits to one side now, its flame reduced, but still faithful, still offering that butter gold steadiness. The woven reed basket stays near the working area, opened briefly for a tool, then closed again, like a mouth that only speaks when necessary. The hearth is coaxed, fed, watched, not worshipped, but respected. Your hosts guide you through one last quiet lesson, and it isn't about knots or felt or the best angle to face the wind. It's about hospitality as survival. You notice how the yurt is arranged to include you without disrupting the flow. A space is made for you that doesn't steal from anyone else. Your bowl is placed where your hands can reach it naturally. The doorway is managed so drafts don't punish the group for one person's movement. Nothing here is indulgent, yet nothing feels stingy. It's generosity designed for scarcity, careful, balanced, sustainable. You remember how you're used to hospitality back home, sometimes loud, sometimes performative, sometimes exhausting for the host. Here, it's quiet and efficient. The welcome is not a show, it's a system. It keeps everyone alive. A visitor isn't treated like a burden or a trophy. A visitor is treated like a temporary member of the circle, which means you're warmed, fed, and gently folded into shared order. You see it in the way your hosts offered you tea without needing to ask 10 questions first. You see it in the way they included your hands in the repair work without making you feel tested. You see it in the way they allowed silence to be comfortable, so no one wastes energy filling air with unnecessary noise. Even the smallest gestures carry that logic. 2 hands passing a warm bowl, a brief pause to ensure you're settled before someone moves past, a careful smoothing of a rug edge so you don't stumble. This kind of hospitality isn't just kindness, it's strategy. A storm doesn't care if you're polite, but your community does. On the step, a person alone is vulnerable, and a group that shares warmth and labor becomes more than the sum of its parts. You feel the truth of that in your own body. Last night's problem, the snapping line, the seam opening, the missing cord, could have turned ugly if you'd been alone. You could have panicked, wasted time, made mistakes. Instead, the response was calm and layered. One person checked tension, another fetched felt, another steadied the lamp, another anchored the door flap. You held cord, press patch, follow rhythm. The yurt held because the people held each other's focus. You think about your life elsewhere, how often you try to manage everything alone, as if independence is a badge that proves you deserve comfort. You remember the "you probably won't survive this" reality check from the beginning, and you half smile at how true it is. The hardest thing for you isn't wind or cold, it's receiving care without bargaining for it. The yurt keeps offering small proof that receiving is also part of the survival system. You accept another warm sip. You accept a gesture that guides you away from the hearth's boundary. You accept that your boots remain by the entrance until it's time, because inside is inside and outside stays outside. You accept that the circle has rules, and the rules aren't controlling, they're protective. As the day moves on, you step outside again briefly. The step is brighter now, the wind gentler, the grass still pressed in ripples from last night's force. You look at the yurt with new eyes. It's not just a shelter, it's a visible expression of community knowledge. How to build a home that moves with pressure, how to store tools in a basket so they're ready, how to keep a lamp steady so hands can work, how to make warmth last through the night. You return inside, and the air feels like a soft exhale. You feel a quiet shift in your chest, something loosening that you didn't realize was tight. The belief that you must endure everything alone, that needing others is weakness, that kindness must be earned through performance. Here, hospitality isn't a reward. It's a way of keeping the circle intact. Your hosts begin to prepare for your departure in the same calm way they prepared for your arrival. Nothing dramatic, just a few practical adjustments, items returned to place, felt checked, the basket closed, the lamp secured. The yurt becomes tidy again, ready for the next weather mood, ready for the next person who needs warmth. And you, sitting quietly in the gold light, realize the last lesson is simple and enormous. Survival isn't just grit, it's shared warmth, it's systems of care, it's allowing yourself to be held, so you can help hold too. You sit for one last moment in the yurt's round calm, letting the warmth settle deeper than your skin. The brass oil lamp gives its butter gold glow, smaller now, steady as ever. And the woven reed basket rests nearby, closed and orderly, full of cord and scraps and quiet readiness. Outside, the steppe keeps moving, because of course it does. The wind is lighter today, less theatrical, but still persistent, still the kind of presence that makes you respect every layer you wear. Your hosts make their final checks with unshowy efficiency. A hand on a rope line, a press near a stake, a smoothing of felt where last night tried to argue. The patched seam sits flat and stubborn, like a small scar that doesn't need a speech. Your mind reaches for a grand takeaway, something you can frame and hang on a wall. The yurt gently declines. The lesson is not a slogan. It's a rhythm. Notice early, fix quietly, share warmth, keep the circle calm. It's the kind of wisdom that looks boring until the wind turns sharp and you realize boring is the whole point. You fold your bedding the way you've watched it done. Layers aligned, edges tucked, nothing flung aside in a tired heap. Your hands move slower than usual, and for once that slowness doesn't feel like failure. It feels like care. You smooth the rug edge near the entrance, remembering the missing cord trailing toward the door flap like a little escape plan. A sleepy amusement passes through you. Even your mistakes became training, as long as you noticed them and put things back where they belonged. The hearth is coaxed down to a safe bed of coals, ember red and patient. Smoke rises in a thin thread through the roof ring, and you watch it leave, clean, calm, uncomplicated. You copy it with your breath. Inhale, slow and full. Exhale, longer, heavier, letting yesterday's noise drift upward and out. When it is finally time, you reach for your boots by the entrance. They feel heavier than before, not because they gained weight, but because you did. Warmth has a strange way of making you aware of what you've been carrying. You pull the boots on, lace them with the same practical focus you used on rope lines, and stand carefully, letting your balance find you again in the circle of rugs. The door flap waits, thick felt hanging like a final curtain. You pause with your fingers on its edge. Up close, the yurt smells of wool, smoke, tea, and that faint human warmth of bodies sharing a night. You place your palm against the felt wall beside the doorway, not as a dramatic goodbye, but as a simple acknowledgement. The shelter held, and so did you. You duck low to step out, bowing again without needing to be told. The wind meets you immediately, brisk and honest, sliding around your collar like a reminder that the world is still wide and unpadded. But it doesn't feel hostile now. It feels like weather. It feels like movement. It feels like something you can coexist with, instead of something you have to defeat. Behind you, the yurt stands round and steady, ropes taut, stakes firm, felt smooth where it matters. In the morning light, it looks even more unlikely. So simple, so strong, so quietly brilliant. You remember the oil lamp's steady glow during the seam repair, the basket opening like a promise, The salty milk tea warming your hands when your mind wanted to scatter. You remember the ropes singing and then calming, the felt whispering and then resting. You remember learning in real time that safety doesn't require silence. It requires steady attention, shared hands, and the willingness to respond before fear gets to narrate the whole night. You walk a few paces into the grass, and the steppe opens around you, pale waves bending in the breeze, sky stretching wide, light spreading slowly. The wind is at your back now, pushing you forward gently, and you let it. You don't fight it just to prove you're tough. You let it help. At the edge of the yurt's circle, you glance back one last time. Your hosts remain near the doorway, calm and grounded, their presence as steady as the shelter behind them. The farewell is simple, a shared stillness, a final moment of being seen without being examined. You carry that with you as you turn away. You continue across the steppe, boots pressing faint paths into grass that will spring back by afternoon, and you feel the yurt's lesson staying with you, like a warm layer under your clothes. Patch small tears early, hold the rope steady, keep your light, keep what you need close. Let warmth be shared. Let the wind speak outside while your mind stays quiet inside. And as the yurt grows smaller behind you, becoming a round dot of felt against endless land, you realize you are leaving a shelter, but you are not leaving the feeling of shelter. You take it with you, tucked somewhere gentle and durable, ready to unfold the next time your world gets loud. You keep walking, but you do it slowly, as if the steppe has taught your feet a kinder tempo. The grass brushes your boots, then slips away, and the wind stays behind you like a patient hand, not pushing hard, just guiding. With every breath, the air feels a little less sharp, a little more familiar, and your shoulders learn the shape of ease. In your mind, the yurt remains exactly as it was, round, warm, and steady. You can almost see the lamp's gold pool on the rugs, the way it made indigo shadows look safe instead of heavy. You can almost feel the woven basket's rim under your fingers, the comfort of knowing the cord is there when you need it. You can almost taste that salty milk tea again, strange at first, then suddenly perfect, like rest itself. Let the images soften now. Let the ropes hum, fade into a gentle hush. Let the felt's whisper become a distant lullaby. The night that tested the seams is already sliding into the past, and what stays with you is not the wind's loudness, but the quiet way the shelter held, and the quiet way you helped. Your breathing slows on purpose. Inhale and imagine warm air filling your chest like lamplight. Exhale and let the day's leftover noise drift out through the roof ring, thin as smoke, disappearing into open sky. There is nothing you have to solve right now, nothing you have to prove. You are allowed to be warm. You are allowed to be safe. Sleep comes gently, and you let it, without bargaining. And when your eyes finally close, even here, even with the wide steppe around you, you can return to that circle any time. One slow breath, one softened thought, one calm whisper inside yourself. You are held. End of story. Sweet dreams.